Let's bring in Tony Russa, the former skipper with the Cardinals, now a special advisor to the commissioner. Tony, how the questions you've received from the media today? How's it feel?
Well, they were, actually interesting. I just had a good time on a conference call around Washington, and it's good to talk baseball again, and I enjoyed them.
But what do you miss most? So long as you had been in the game, that now on the outside looking in.
I think there are two things, Dan. One, you have a lot of relationships when you're with an organization. And I'm not just talking about the players and the coaches and the guys around the clubhouse, the equipment guys. But within the organization, when you're there, as long as I wasn't in St. Louis, there's some really good friends and that you used to see in, 8.5 months a year. So that's been tough. And the other thing is, I don't miss the dugout, but I miss the winning and losing. That's part of your life for a long time.
But does the winning ever, the thrill, the fun of winning ever replace how painful that is to suffer a loss?
I think it held true from first day to last, especially as a manager. I think coaches in all sports will tell you that you don't enjoy the wins like you suffer the losses. That's just the nature of it. When you win, you enjoy it briefly, and then you're thinking about the next one. If you lose, it kind of stays with you. You have to force it out. That never did change.
He's Dusty Baker comments, the conversation about that. Clear that up for me. How does that – why is he upset at you?
On a personal level, Dan, I can't clear it up, and we got a long history. We've known each other since the '70s. Last year we ever played was on first year with Oakland in '86. I thought we had a good relationship. We got tested a few times when you're in the same division and you're competing against each other. But this was it's a word that we use at times about what happens when you do the job, manage a job with, sometimes with players or others, it's betrayal. I feel betrayed by them. Professionally is one thing, but that was personal, and I'm really upset about it. And if he hadn't had that experience as an all-star manager, maybe cut him a little slack, but he has had it, and he's so off base on that. First of all, just the selections. I think I told somebody, it'd have been wrong for me to have held some kind of personal vendetta against any of the Cincinnati Reds, and I didn't because I picked some of them. But it'd have been more wrong for me to have given a cheap shot and made a change in the roster when it didn't work out. So, I don't know how to explain it, except that I think maybe he was making points with his players and somebody had to be sacrificed, and it was me. But I think managers, I've got a lot of calls. Where in the hell what was he thinking about? Because the players dictate the second line of players and the first line of pitchers. The fans dictate the first line of players, so you really don't get many choices. And enough said. I just. That's a personal thing that that's a knife in the back there that I don't think I'll forget.
Yeah, betrayal's a strong word, Tony. And I said, look, if Dusty's going to say this, who are you taking off the roster? And if you had put on Cardinal players, and if Dusty was on instead of you, I'd have said the same thing to him. I don't think you went out of your way to slight the Reds unless Dusty can tell me who are you taking off that roster. And that you didn't go out of your way to say, you know what, I'll stick it to you. I'm going to put some Cardinals on this roster.
Well, that's the reasonable explanation. But I take it personal. That's why I say that first, and I use that word betrayal exactly how I feel. But the fact is, I've gotten calls from other guys who are more respectful and say, hey, I know it's a tough process, man, but we think. The Giants have told me they think they have a couple pitchers better than Cueto, and they didn't get picked. So. That's my point. This isn't the first time it happens. Every year to every manager on both sides.
Yep.
Somebody's upset. And the one question you'd love to be able to just face-to-face ask the pitcher or the player that complains or the agent that complains or the organization that complains. You say, okay, you take the guy that's on the roster off to put your guy on. Now tell me who that is.
Yep.
And that would stop a lot of that nonsense.
Well, because I'm not taking Cole Hamels off the roster. So I don't know who Dusty would take off. That's what I would want to know here. You know, you want Phillips on there? Okay, who is coming off there? Then we can discuss that. But until I hear that, I can't. I just said, look, I can't single out Tony to say, you know, what happened 2 years ago in a bench-clearing brawl, that would affect what you would do for an All-Star game with Dusty.
Well, as a matter of fact, I've caught more. It's been respectful heat. But I've caught more heat that Holiday's having a better year than Bruce, and I picked Bruce. So, you get it from both sides. But, you know, the difference, Dan, and it's a big difference, fans pick the starting 8 in the National League, and then the players pick the back 8, the next 8. And the players pick the first 8 pitchers, 5 starters, 3 relievers. So the players have spoken as well for the Cincinnati guys. And, there are rankings there about where starting pitchers have fallen, where they're listed compared to other starters according to the players' vote and where the position players are. So when you look at that objectively, I mean, I'd love to be able to, go in a courtroom and have to explain my team and take my chances, our team rather. So that when you can make an explanation, then the fact that somebody brings in something that happened a couple of years ago, the worst thing that happens is it redredges that terrible night. And if I was Cincinnati, I would keep that as much flushed down the toilet as I could. To bring it back up is a big mistake on their part because they were so egregious in how they got that thing going that they're best just forgetting it or not talking about it than trying to remind anybody about it.
We'll try to have fun, all right?
Well, I was trying to. Believe me, it sapped some of it, but I'm going to enjoy the experience. I'm looking forward to being back in uniform with the coaches, and I love the All-Star experience. Ever since my first one, '84, where Altobelli picked me the best baseball players in the world. You watch them work out for 2 days, and then you watch them play for a baseball rat. It's the best kind of day.
I'd love to have you on some other time soon just to talk baseball. I always appreciate it. I'm, the drama here, but I had to ask. It's part of my job. But I'd like to be able to have you on where we just talk baseball.
Well, you let me know, Dan. I'd love to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. That's Tony Russa, former Cardinal manager. Didn't have to read between the lines there. Used the word betrayal and knife in the back. Pretty strong stuff there.